with me I've got Nile Gardiner, who's director of the Margaret Thatcher Centre for Freedom, a glorious name, at the Heritage Foundation. And Nile, what's a Brit like you doing in Washington?
Well, Washington's a very exciting place to work for Conservatives today. It really is the centre of global power. This is where everything happens here in the United States. So if you're interested in foreign policy issues, Washington is a tremendous place to be. And of course, it's a very exciting time now with the presidential race in full swing. And I have actually been here in Washington for 5.5 years working on a wide array of foreign policy questions, primarily relating to US-UK relations and the broader transatlantic alliance.
Do you not think that Conservative influence now is rather on the wane, and that it's more the Democrats' agenda that's likely to dominate politics over the next 6 months?
Not necessarily. I think there's still all to play for here, and I think that certainly the Republicans have every chance of winning the election in November. Also, polls show that there are in fact a similar number of registered Republican and Democrat voters, and so the notion that the left has put out recently that the Conservatives are on the run, they're on the wane, I don't think is really the case. I think the conservatism is still very healthy and strong here in the United States, but of course there is a very big divide within the Conservative movement, as we've seen in the recent presidential race on the Republican side. So there are major divisions which will have to be healed ahead of the presidential elections in November.
Now, John McCain is not a neocon, although he has supported President Bush's troop surge. Do you think neoconservatism is now on the decline after having been in the ascendant for so long here?
I don't think that neoconservatism is really a major issue in this election, actually, and I think that you hear less and less talk, frankly, these days of neoconservatism. I do think, though, that John McCain, if elected as president, would advance a very strong, hawkish foreign policy. He certainly is very, very hardline on Iran and Iraq, and so I do see a continuation, I think, between a lot of the policies of the Bush administration and a potential future McCain administration. In fact, John McCain would probably be even more hawkish than President Bush. But I think the whole debate over neoconservatism has largely passed here in the United States. It's no longer, frankly, a major dominant political issue.
People in Britain have got very excited about Barack Obama, particularly the BBC, and I wrote a blog post a couple of weeks ago saying that in Britain both Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama could be described as conservatives. Now that created quite a lot of comment. I was being slightly provocative, if I'm honest. But what do you think of Barack Obama? Because he certainly got charisma, he certainly makes a very, very good speech. We don't know an awful lot about his policy positions, do we?
Well, certainly Obama is a very charismatic figure. He's an almost Blair-like, telegenic politician who has broad mass appeal here in the United States. However, if you look at his voting record in the Senate, which is closely tracked by the American Conservative Union, he does score extremely low on the conservative ranking scale, as does Hillary Clinton. And so Barack Obama is, by any definition, a very left-wing politician. However, he is a visionary figure who does appeal to a lot of independent voters here in the United States, and certainly a very formidable opponent for John McCain in November. And so Barack Obama, I think, is an extremely difficult figure for the Republicans to go up against. But one does have to look very closely at his track record as a senator, a very left-wing voting record. Also, his foreign policy remains largely an enigma. He said very little about Europe, about Great Britain or the special relationship. He is someone who I think there's still a very big question mark, I think, over his foreign policy views, and I think that one does have to exercise a lot of caution, really, with regard to Barack Obama as a presidential candidate.
I've been speaking to a lot of pundits here, and the consensus seems to be that if the Democrats choose Hillary Clinton, McCain can beat her, but he would have more difficulty beating Obama. Would you go along with that?
I think that Hillary Clinton is also a very strong opponent for John McCain, and by no means should Clinton be underestimated. However, Hillary Clinton does tend to energize the Conservative base in opposition. And certainly a lot of analysts here in Washington would agree with the view that Hillary Clinton is more beatable than Barack Obama. I think that certainly Barack Obama would be overall a tougher opponent.
I mean, in a way, I think it will all come down to how they get out the vote. We saw in the primaries on Super Tuesday that the Democrats, the number of votes was vastly in excess of what the Republicans managed to get out, and I mean that really could have an effect in November, couldn't it?
Well, there's no doubt about it. The left is highly energized here in the United States, but of course the left is frankly divided, and many on the left, for example, would not turn out to vote for Hillary Clinton. So I think she has some significant problems with the left wing of the Democratic Party. This is certainly going to be a fascinating race, but there's no doubt about it that Conservatives do have to be re-energized in the coming months if they are to continue to be a major political force here in the United States with a clear prospect of winning the elections in November.
Well, at least Hillary's got Ann Coulter supporting her, so...
Yeah, certainly Ann Coulter's endorsement is the most surprising endorsement of the political season. But it also reflects, I think, some of the very deep divisions within the Conservative movement over the rise of John McCain, and McCain is certainly going to have to make every effort to appeal to the broader Conservative base in order to win the election in November.
Quick word about your work here at the Margaret Thatcher Centre. What's your day job? What do you do at the centre?
Well, I manage a staff of about 10 people here. We cover a wide array of issues from transatlantic relations, US policy towards the European Union, right through to US policy with regard to the United Nations. So we do cover a very full gamut of foreign policy questions. We are certainly the most significant centre here in Washington dealing with US-UK relations, and the Thatcher Centre has a very unique status, I think, here in Washington with regard to advising the executive branch of the US government and Congress with regard to US-UK relations, while at the same time, of course, working very closely with Conservatives in Britain, and also working closely as well with visiting British political figures. So we do have a rather unique status here in Washington, but this is also a critically important time, I think, for Anglo-American relations. So we're certainly very fortunate and privileged, I think, to be working here at this time.